All right, welcome, Penny. Thanks for joining us today. So, for those of you who are tuning in or might be listening at a later time, we are at that precious moment of having just turned the clocks, and that doesn't mean that the farming efforts have ceased. And Penny can attest to that. Give us a little scope of how your day's been going. What have you been up to on this November day in kind of mid-fall, Penny?
Um, Actually, this day was a blessing because we had like 60 degrees and sunshine. And so yesterday wasn't quite as nice. That's when we didn't get above 42. And it was warmer at night than it was during the day all day. So I did my usual thing. I get to work well before my employees, and our goal today was harvesting Brussels sprouts, getting rutabagas out of the field, getting cabbage out of the field, and I'm just trying to get all of the things done before we truly um, hit that wall of cold weather. And so today we were finishing off an order of over 1,200 pounds of Brussels sprouts that we have to pop off the stems. It's taken us 2 days to get there. And so we had a lot on our plate today.
So, so 1,200 pounds of Brussels sprouts. Let's just put that in perspective. And there's different ways that these get packaged, right? So you might see them like at a market stand, and they're on, or a farm stand, and they're on the stem. But you're literally cutting off the little bulbs, so to
Yeah,
speak.
you pop them off. You pop
Yeah.
them off. You get about the stalks that we have are pretty tall. They're probably about 2 feet, maybe 18 inches. There's about a pound of Brussels sprouts on a stalk. Sometimes, if you're lucky, it's almost like a pound and a quarter. But yeah, so we planted this year 6,000 stalks of Brussels sprouts.
So thick 6,000 stalks is, and you must have started them from seed when?
Well, my brother is I call my brother, he's the farmer. I don't work in greenhouses because they, I have to work at a fast pace. So my brother planted, he started the seeds probably, wow, back in April timeframe. And we actually we plant two uh, plantings of Brussels sprouts. And so he we transplant them with machine, and my nephew takes care of that part of it. He does all the mechanized stuff. I do all of the hand stuff. Like, so if we were going to transplant by hand, then I'm the one who organizes that. But he organizes all the mechanized planting.
So it's a family operation. You've got a mix of mechanical and hand work here. That seems to be kind of the anecdotes that I've heard in my other discussions with fruit and vegetable farmers. It takes a lot of moving parts. So tell me
Yeah.
more about like a day in the life of those moving parts. Like, are you kind of just saying, yep, I'm hands on, and you guys go do the mechanized stuff? Is there a scalability to that? What does that look like in your daily lives?
Um, let me talk about my daily life. If we're going to talk about during planting and peak harvest season, I'm accountable for managing the crew that does planting and harvesting, and really organizing and really orchestrating all of the different things that need to happen uh, during the day, working closely with my nephew and my brother, because it's about allocation of resource. And so we have employees that are accountable for working in our farm stand. That is our on-site farm stand. So we have customer service people, we have people who are prep, pack, and people who do stocking of shelves. So I'm accountable for all of the resources that cover those from, I will say, planting, field maintenance, harvest, prep, pack, um, market to wholesale, market to retail, and managing the retail market. So my brother and my nephew are accountable for determining where the product's going to be planted, uh, determining when it's going to be planted, working together to determine how it's going to be planted, and um, and so our overlap is in, okay, now the field is prepared to transplant lettuce. And so it's going, what day can you do that? And so then we start looking at weather, we start looking at what else needs to happen. And so we usually try to plan out what a week might look like. And recognizing that if you've got wholesale orders to fulfill also, that you've got weeds staring you in the field, that you need to figure out where you need to put your resources. So it's about looking at the overall projects that need to be done and determining where resources are going to be allocated at that point in time. That's what
So
we do.
not too different from like any other business, so to speak. You just
You got it.
happen
Yeah.
happen to be in the livelihood of nourishing foods, providing nutrients to your family, to your customers. You've mentioned a couple different things that, in the scope of Maine uh, produce that we might find. There's different ways that we can buy it, right? We know we can go to a farm stand. We know that we
Mhm.
can go to, or maybe we don't know that we can go to our local grocery stores. So when you say the words wholesale and retail, like what does that actually mean? If I'm a shopper and I've never been to your farm stand.
Okay. Um, Retail, of course, is when you walk into our farm stand and you see all of the beautiful vegetables there, just saying, "Buy me, take me home," because I'm going to be so fresh and yummy. And wholesale is when we basically harvest in bulk, pack based on what that market might want packing. So, say, 12 count lettuce, 26-pound beans that will then be shipped to either through Crown of Maine to another farm stand to sell our green beans, or to a co-op to sell our lettuces. Basically, what we do at Jordan's Farm is we do both wholesale and retail in order that we can keep a consistent supply of product for our retail business. We also purchase products wholesale from over 15 other farms in order to supply our farm stand, because our mantra at Jordan's Farm is not just keeping Jordan's Farm a viable business, but that we continuously look for ways to ensure that Maine agriculture grows. And so we're blessed to have the market that we have and able to move the volume that we move. Um, and so working with the other farms helps us have more diversity of product as well as continuous supply of product.
So speak more, if you would, about, kind of supporting agriculture as a whole. This is we've been doing these episodes, and we're on episode 4, which just scratches the surface of Maine agriculture. There's so much variety, but I'm curious to know more, like why that even matters, right? I mean, one could say, "Yeah, well, I can go to the grocery store and maybe I find the product from Maine, or maybe I don't even know it's from Maine." But why does it even matter if a working farm exists? Which may sound like a silly question, but
Oh my God,
um,
that's a silly question, Anne. Why did because you wouldn't have it in your grocery store, you silly. Jeez.
so it matters because we got to have nutrients to eat. But one could argue those nutrients could come from other places, but there's something to be said for them coming from a certain distance,
Yeah,
or the kind of unseen pieces of, like, I'm trying to keep track of the number of people that you probably mentioned, but it's like we talked about earlier, it's running a business,
right.
and those people are probably connected to family members or dependents, or you're probably supporting other businesses too. So I'd
Yes,
be curious
definitely.
for your take on just beyond the caloric benefit.
Yeah. Well, I think that uh, we've heard for years and years and years the contribution that farms make to any community, and um, being in Cape Elizabeth, I can tell you that we are valued for the vistas that we create for the community, and we're also the fact that people can come into our farm stand and know that the food that we purchase, that we think about it, the food that we grow, that we really think about it. And so what they're getting every day is the freshest and the best products that Maine has to offer. And I often talk about one of the things that we do is about educating our our customers on the breadth and depth of Maine agriculture in each season. And people are astounded by the variety of product that's in the farm that we have in our farm stand today, just today. And it's there because we have farms like Six River Farm, who grows different products than we grow. And they're wonderful farmers, and they grow high quality products, and they benefit their community in the same way that we benefit ours. And yes, and we as a business purchase from other businesses and keep other businesses operating. Um, and we also, I would say, work to um, work in our community and in southern Maine to also address food insecurity and to constantly give back and to Cumberland County, York County, or wherever we might be, because we truly believe that farms grow food to feed people, no matter who they are. And whether they can walk into my farm stand and purchase it, or we can move it someplace closer to them. So I create this collective of farms that we kind of all have the same values and the same mission of about growing food for people, and really demonstrating care for the soil, care for the environment, participation in our community. My father was always a town councilor. I'm a town councilor. My sister's on the planning board. We engage in community. So farms and farmers do a lot of different things in their communities. So I don't know if I answered your question, but
I think that's spot on. And, this is a great conversation that you and I are having about what it means individually, and for your family and for your community. And, I like this idea of, okay, we've got beautiful vistas, and that's something too. But I think the other piece that is worth mentioning is that you and I talk with a lot of different farmers, right? You're talking with them in your membership groups, or you're talking with them in solutions, and I talk with them kind of thinking about, what are your needs, or are you interested in this way of promoting your product? And the message ultimately is the same, right? No matter how we're growing and raising and caring for this land, it's because we are feeding people. And I think that's a really fun message to be aware of, but it's a reality too. I mean, we are seeing those numbers increase of people supporting farms and buying local, and it's certainly not without challenges either, right? So when we think about how we address those challenges, everyone's trying to bring something to the table, literally,
Mhm.
and figuratively too. So, um, what would you kind of almost think could be a basic solution? And we're going to hear from another farmer in just a moment here about thoughts, but like kind of some tips on, if I just wanted to start eating more fruits and veggies, how what's an easy way to go about that in our busy lives?
There's a lot of different ways you can go about it, and um, I think that um, there's more and more farms who are working to make on on the local food, whether it be from their farms or other farms or a combination of, more accessible to people with busy lives. You'll see more farms with online ordering, with curbside pickup, with home delivery, with the fact that we um, um, have our farm stand now open till December 18th versus previous years would be closing right after Halloween. So more farms are recognizing, and I won't say recognizing because I've always known that you've got to make it easy and accessible. And so how do you collaborate with other businesses to maybe have a CSA farm drop at I'm going to say a local coffee shop? So constantly thinking about how do I make it simple. Um, we here at Jordan's Farm, we have our on-site farm stand. We also have an online ordering system which allows people to order and pick up any Monday through Saturday till 4:30 in the afternoon. And so we pack it and we have it ready to go. We have dabbled in home delivery. Um, it's not something that has been high demand. And so therefore we said, okay, that that didn't work. So what we do is just constantly look for ways to make the food more accessible to people and make it simple for them to shop. And so we have our CSA here, which people, it's just like a line of credit. They come in, they buy, they say their name, and they get to leave. So simplicity is really important. And I also think that there are a number of the people, like any other farm that has a CSA, that people just become part of the family, and you know them year out, year in and year out. Um, so those are the types of things that we do here in order to make things more accessible to people.
Thanks. Good insight, Penny. And if you're just joining us, our guest is Penny Jordan, and we're also going to have another guest join us, Marilyn Meyerhands, and we'll be hearing from her. Just so you know, we've been talking about fruits and vegetable production in Maine, hearing directly from the farmers, and we're getting some good questions from the public as well. Marilyn, welcome. I hope everything's going well at the apple farm. Busy time of year. Penny was just telling us they've been busy. They've been finding different ways to connect with consumers. And so I'm wondering if you would kind of share your thoughts on some conversations you and I have had in the past about how produce farmers connect with consumers, and how we try and make it easy to make that bridge between why farming is valuable and why we can provide local produce to our neighbors.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I'm a bit late. We've been doing a lot. This has been an interesting season, I guess is one way to put it. Um, Labor issues, all that sort of thing. We're working about 10 times harder than we probably ought to be, but that's all right. In terms of getting food to local people, I mean, we're out kind of in the boonies. We live on a road called the Back Road for a reason. So people have to drive a distance to get to us. So what we've had to do is we do sell to some of the Hannafords, local markets. We do some work with some distributors who get food to other places than just our place. And we are open only 3, maybe 4 months out of the year. It's just too hard to be open because our barn is cold and people don't want to drive out there. Once the apples are picked, they don't really want to drive out there. Getting food to people, local food to people in the fall, really for us isn't that hard because people do come to us. We have a CSA, not a CSA, but it's a farm share, which is like a CSA for seniors. So I've got 100 people that come for that. And then we've got pick your own operation. So people come out for that. So I can sell them vegetables, and that's an intense time. It's like 3-4 months of just intense work. But they do come to us. So the rest of the year, what do? I have to get food to people. So Hannaford's, buy local. We do farmers market. As long as the farmers market goes on, as long as we have apples. So, we'll sell our whole crop to local people. We don't ship out of state at all anymore. So it's not hard, but getting people to know what to do. The numbers, we've been at this is our 48th year of farming. Over the years, people have bought less and less at any given time. It used to be bushels, and then it was half bushels, and then it was pecks. And we sell more half pecks now than we do of anything else. So I think people are cooking less. They're looking for something a little bit different. I have young people come in and they'll not even know how to make applesauce. And to me, that's mind-boggling. So we have to take time to help people learn how to use the fruits and vegetables that they get from us. I'll sell a squash. Well, I can't do squash. I don't know how to cut it. I don't know how to cook it. So we do some education that way and help people buy the food. But mostly it's during the fall, they come to us, and then the rest of the season, we have to go to them, however it is. But people do want to support local orchards, local farms. There's no question that that's a big thing.
Yeah. Penny, I see you nodding your head in agreement with a lot of the experiences. Care to chime in?
That applesauce example is so right on the.
Isn't it amazing? But it's not just young people. I have a friend that doesn't live far from me. She went to another friend's house for her first applesauce making. This woman is in her late 50s. And she'd never done it before. And she came to me afterwards. She bought apples and she took them to this friend's house and was so excited by how wonderful it was and also how easy it was.
Yeah. And then everybody thinks you can only use Cortland's to make apple pies.
Well, they're learning. We do a lot of teaching because we have over 50 varieties of apples. Try this, try that. Mm-hmm. And I'll give apples away to get people to try something different. Yeah. You've got to try something different or you're just going to go insane, or we're going to go insane growing nothing but Cortland's. One or the other.
So you both have been pretty busy, and it's pretty exciting to me to be having this conversation, as I mentioned, in November. I think when people think of Maine and northern New England, maybe they think, what on earth is growing? We've got not a lot of daylight right now, but yeah, that doesn't withhold any of the effort that you all put in. So let's think ahead too about what the winter brings, and then what springtime's going to bring as well. Marilyn, go ahead and kick us off with that.
Well, winter for us is, I've had people tell me this. It must be so nice. You must go to Florida. Yeah. January, well, we'll have apples probably until Christmas, and we'll be still pressing cider and making deliveries and that sort of thing. And then in January, about January 1st, actually, is nice and cold out and the trees are sleeping. So it's time to start pruning. So that's when we do all the pruning, the planning. If there's stuff that needs to be done, we have 5 acres of gardens as well. So, I've got to think about seeds. I've got to think about what's going to grow in the hoop house. Those are the kinds of things. The pruning is a big one because that's got to be done. We never get the whole orchard done. We have over 50 acres of trees, and that's when we do it. And it's freezing cold, but you can't wait. You have to do it. If it's not super windy and it's 20 degrees, it really isn't bad, sort of. So that's the project. And then come spring, as soon as we can, we have to chop all that brush that we cut or move it somehow. And then we've got to start planning. As soon as the blooms start coming, you start worrying about spraying, whether you've got diseases. We start monitoring for insects, for diseases, that sort of thing. And all summer and spring, that's what we do. I mean, it's just flat out busy. And of course, the gardens, as Penny knows, that's the rest of it. That's what you do. It never ends.
Yeah, I've heard the word relentless used
Yes.
in all forms of caretaking, but this seems especially um, apt, I would say. But with such
Well,
good
I
reward.
also want to. I also want to say that it's. We know. I mean, there's something about being in farming as long as we have been, and I'm sure most farmers are that way. You don't even have to think of it. You don't look at the calendar. You just know in your gut. I'll be going along doing something for a month, and then all of a sudden, not looking at a calendar, but just knowing, uh-oh, I've got to do this. Now's the time. And it has something to do with the moon or something. I don't know what it is, but in your gut, now's the time to do this or that, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's been the case with so many people that I talk to. It's almost instinct.
Yes.
And, I think it's, it's pretty cool, right? I mean, we think
Yeah.
about, you almost follow the instincts of this rhythm. We talk about that when we think, what are the farmers up to? Well, they're always up to something.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so Penny, what does your winter into spring and summer look like? Either instinctually or project management wise. Give us a
Mhm.
little insight onto that.
I Similar to Maryland, everybody thinks we have the winter off. Basically, what our winter looks like is we have storage product. So we have squash and potatoes and carrots and beets and cabbage and any number of things that we are still marketing and ideally selling. And Starting in the 1st of January, we start our business planning where the family gets together and we review all of the financials as well as what products we have that we think are working and aren't working. And we might vote things off the island and we might bring things onto the island. And then My brother is the seed catalog reviewer. And we all sit with our catalogs and start going through and saying, we want this, we don't want this anymore. We also start to identify what capital improvements we need to do, what equipment we might need to repair, what my nephew focuses on equipment repair in the shop all winter long. That's when he does any of the building projects that we need to have done. We also start. My brother starts the greenhouses right around, I would say, late March, early April. I'm working on, we have 3 year-round employees, and last year we worked on the employee policy manual. We wrote procedures. We basically did painting projects. We made sure that all of the items on our online systems and our POS and our label makers are all lined up. So it's really our time to catch up on those things that you need to really operate a business. And we got our job descriptions written, all of those types of things. And then right around, I would say mid-April, end of April, we start transplanting our first round of lettuce and our Swiss chard. And my brother and nephew have already started doing their seeding of whether it might be peas or beans or corn or whatever they might do. I don't get into the mechanized stuff. And then our Puerto Ricans arrive right around mid-May, and the season really begins.
Yeah, that's when the rubber meets the road. I'm curious, Marilyn, you and I had a kind of a discussion about the economy of things, and I heard you say you don't have any trouble getting rid of your product. But there was an interesting number that I think you mentioned a long time ago, that the Pomological Society. So if you're listening and you haven't heard about this group, you should know that farmers, we've already heard they're doing a lot of stuff, but they also network with each other and they have organized groups. So I think you, correct me if I'm wrong, but was there a number that like was a goal with like more than 1 million Mainers, like how many apples
Well,
they
this,
could
yeah,
eat?
this is something that there's 1,300,000 people in Maine, and Maine grows just about 1,300,000 bushels of apples. So,
Wow.
do you not think we could each eat and drink a bushel of apples in a year? I think we could. I don't think we need to export any. If you look at it just in basic numbers, between cider and sauce and all the other stuff we do with apples, it shouldn't be hard for us to consume everything we grow in the state of
That
Maine.
is awesome.
Isn't that amazing?
Oh,
So that's my comment about numbers. I'm not a number person, but I always like that one.
Yeah. So how much, I mean, do you happen to know, just, I mean, we're talking apples a little bit and we'll get into, I guess, into the weeds, if you will. Not probably not a good
Oh,
term to
good.
use,
No.
but but how many orchards are there across Maine?
I've been out because I've been so busy lately. I can't give you those numbers. It's shifting. Things over the years have shifted from a lot of large growers to smaller growers, then back to large growers. It's going back and forth. And I think right now it's so difficult to make a living on a small farm that I just worry about that. We need the economies of scale, unfortunately, no matter how much you try. Years ago, someone told me that if you can keep 10% of what you make on a farm, that's average. Well, if you have a farm that makes $10,000, you're not going to make a living. And small farms often only make 10,000 or something like that. So they've either got to have an outside job or something going on. So small farms do suffer. But I don't know. I know there are a lot of small farms. Pomological Society right now has fewer large growers than it had 15, 20 years ago. There were a lot of smaller growers, even 2 acres. 3 acres, that sort of thing. They're still farms, they're still growing apples. It's part of our 1,300,000, but it's a shift.
Yeah,
It's a shift
more
I
of
kind of
it.
worry about because I don't like seeing the middle-sized farms disappear.
Right.
In part because
Right.
we're one of them, but also because, it's a linchpin for the society, for the pomological society, plus how we grow apples.
I think, sorry, Ann, but
Go for it.
Marilyn, I think that point you make about middle-sized farms, it's like what I try to explain to people whenever I'm speaking somewhere or even casually talking to my customers, that it's the mid-sized farms that we all really need to be concerned about at this point in time, because you either scale up or scale down in order to
That's right.
survive. And it's wonderful to say small farms. And yes, I support farms. I support all size farms. But if we don't focus on mid-sized farms uh, and really focus on them, then we're going to keep losing more and more of them. It's so sad.
And it's not just, dairy farms, it's dairy farms in large part. I see too many of that mid-sized dairy farm just, well,
Oh,
they're
they,
all
they
stressed.
can't do it.
No. And how do we make it happen so we can make, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
If you had your
I
dreams
have,
or wishes,
I have an idea.
yeah, go for it, Penny.
I have an idea.
Share it.
What?
I know people think I'm crazy every time I say this, but I start with the basics that food is necessary in order to sustain life. So if we start from that premise that what we do every single day is to create an element about sustaining life, then farms should not be treated like any other business. So it's the legislative process that is taking and squeezing the mid-sized farms and causing us to have to operate like and to like and to pay taxes, unemployment, I'm going to go payroll taxes. We are starting to lose some of our exemptions that farms, which they had because of the fact of what we do. And so my premise is, if we could get Augusta to pay attention to what is it that farms do day in and day out to help sustain life on this planet, then they would start thinking more about when they are bringing new laws into effect, that they will start doing more exemptions for farms. That's where I think, because that's what's squeezing the mid-sized farms.
I think that would definitely help. I think that, and it's federal, not just Augusta.
Yes, the feds too. Exactly. Right on the money, Marilyn. I agree 1,000%. Yes.
So what I think we start talking about levers really, and how that plays into another consideration as a small business owner, whether you're in Cape Elizabeth or Fairfield or Fort Kent, right? Because we have produce and fruit farms all across this state, and they do a variety. Um, so if you would kind of delve into what it means to be a mid-size production of vegetables and fruits. And Marilyn, you maybe could speak to this. You said you are a mid-size
We are.
orchard. So what does that actually look like? Is it a certain number of employees? Is it acreage? Is it output? Is
Well,
it quantifiable?
it's all of those things. It's size. I mean, we had at one point, we were pushing the large size farm. We had increased it up to the point where we we had more full-time employees. We weren't having to work so hard. We had a lot more help because we could have year-round employees. We don't now. We're smaller. Um, but I think, I don't know if there's a dollar value on that or not. I would probably guess that, goodness, I almost would put a dollar value of,
Right.
I can't do that. I can't put a dollar value on it, but um, you're not year round. I think that's part of it. Um, there's a time when you run out of product. That's another part of it. Really, some of the really large growers, apple growers, will have apples year round. They can keep things going year round. We can't do that. We don't have enough product. Um, but we have to be cognizant of all of the regulations and all of the, um, as Penny said, taxes and all the rest of it that go along with a very large farm that can afford to hire somebody to do all of that outside work. We do it ourselves. My husband does all the business stuff. Um, you know, that's a mid-sized to small farm when you do that. If you can hire somebody to do all your paperwork, good for you. But most small farms and mid-sized farms can't do that. We do all that ourselves. And I think that's the mid-size, is somebody who tries to do it all. We're also delivering the apples, we're growing the apples, we're packing the apples. That's what we do every day. If we were bigger, we would have more people help us and we could afford to do that. So we need a little bit more leeway, as Penny says, to take some pressure off, make it easier, make it doable.
Yeah, I like that insight there, the do it all. And I think we've seen a lot of that across generations of farming, no matter what type of product you're doing, whether you are getting into the value added production because you might need to or diversifying. So
Right.
so doing it all, it's a little bit of a Maine cultural value too. But it comes with clearly some challenges too. Yeah.
Well, it comes with exhaustion.
Yeah. 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 And I'm curious, because we really, we're at a moment in time where we're talking with farmers and there's another like layer of things happening, right? So it's we're having this interview, we'll be point blank. We're having this interview in the middle of a pandemic, right? And that has created things like supply chain disruptions. It's created labor challenges. I mean, so it probably adds to that layer of exhaustion. How do you care for yourselves? How does any small business kind of navigate that? How could we help?
Labor is one of the big issues. This year was, I think, the worst we've ever had. And part of it was not the employees' faults or our faults. It was probably the pandemic. I had one Saturday morning, which is our busier days. I had 3 people. It got to the point I didn't want to answer my phone. 3 people call for different reasons. One had been exposed to COVID, couldn't come in. One had childcare issues because of COVID, couldn't come in. And one, I can't remember what the other one was, but 3 people in one busy Saturday. And I just was like, I can't do this. This is crazy. Of course, we did it, but, you know, and also trying to do wholesale, and we do donuts. And, like you said, you try to do it all to attract people, to keep it going, to get enough money to keep it going. And it just becomes really, really difficult. And then right now, I mean, things have slowed down enough so it seems like we can do this. But I'll tell you, a month ago, I was questioning it because it was so difficult.
Yeah.
You just
And I
described
don't
an
know
element,
how.
Marilyn, you just described an element that I think that people who come to your farm to pick apples, etc. Um, I often try to think about how do we create this true picture of what it takes on a day-to-day basis for you to keep the doors open so that people can come and enjoy that experience, and you stand there with a smile on your face going, holy shit, I had 3 people call out, and I got to make this happen, and the angst that creates. And I go, how do I explain that to people without them thinking that I'm whining about my life, because I'm not. It's like, this doesn't happen by happenstance. It happens because of hard work.
Because somebody makes it work. Somebody makes it happen. And you know you're going to get through it. I mean, even while you're doing it, you know you're going to get through it. And somebody hands you, my husband brings me over a cup of coffee, and it's like, okay, that's cool. That's good enough. Another cup of coffee gets you through another couple hours.
Yeah. And it's like if it rains during strawberry season, here you have your strawberries that are like pink and beautiful, and then you get a torrential downpour, and the people who
can't
come
even imagine.
Strawberries the next day goes, what happened? I go, well, it did rain. And they go, oh, it did? Like, well, yeah. So,
but they don't know that. I've had people say how bad the apples were one year. We had a big hailstorm and lost the whole crop, and what can I say? Is it my fault? Sorry, you came out for a lovely time at the orchard and the apples were terrible. Yep. That happens. And I don't know how to.
But they still taste good. They taste good.
Yeah, really. Get over the bumps. It's all right.
That sounds like a good bumper sticker, Marilyn. Get over the bumps. Bumper sticker.
It's all right.
I like it.
Well, we're getting such great feedback from our audience, and I just want to be sure that you all know that they're giving you a lot of kudos and appreciation for what you do. So, even for the bumpy moments, I want to make sure that you understand that, and we're seeing it from a lot of familiar names and faces, but new folks as well. So. I think with that in mind, I'm curious to, like, we try and bring up this word solution or ideas, and maybe some of it is just, you just got to keep going, right? That's part of farming. Right. But we did have a question about, like, what could a retailer do for supporting farmers, or is it, and maybe it's not that simple for just a retailer, maybe it's not that simple for the one thing that a retailer could do. I don't know.
What do you mean? What can a retailer do for?
I think they're curious, like, if there's one thing that a retailer could do to help a farmer, and maybe I'll throw out some ideas that I've heard across the board, like, and you've already said some things, like maybe it's as simple as come out there to the farm and be educated, right? We've seen that across other sectors where, even chefs come out to farms, or, the retail clerk comes out to the farm. So is education part of it? And, maybe, and pricing might not be part of it, but is there one thing that a retailer could do?
I really have several opinions on that. Number one, there are certain retailers that could not do loss leader selling during peak strawberry season, peak pumpkin season, peak apple season, peak tomato season, and I won't name any names. There are also retailers that could be willing to pay the farmers the price that they should be paying for the product, and recognize that there are some seasons where a farmer might need to ask a different price for a product because they had to have more inputs in order to produce that product than in other seasons. I think that and I will just name my dear friend John Naylor at Rosemont, who truly understands
Right.
that in order to get commitment from his farms and in order to get best product and to have to feel like a team, he is willing to pay the price that the farm deserves in order to actually earn a living. Instead, what we have are stores who perpetuate the cheap food for consumers, and the farmers are the ones who are paying the price.
That's definitely our situation as well. You did talk about, and you did talk about having the buyers come out, and I think that would be lovely. I'd like them to come out. We we call some of our stores that we deal with in the morning for deliveries that day, that morning. We're packing for that day. That's not easy. And then if we get there a little late, like afternoon time, we're late. But we're late because we didn't get the order until 8 in the morning. So how do you do that? And we do it. We try. And if we're there at 1 o'clock, he goes, darn, the receiver's gone home already or something. Like, sorry, we tried. But that's one issue. So if the buyers came to the stores, to our produce markets where we grow and produce things, and watched what happened, that might help. This is what it takes to get the product to you. So
Mhm.
that's one thing. And years ago that did happen. We had some produce buyers from some of the stores around us come to the farm and walk around, take a tour, see what we do. And I think that is a good thing. And some of them are our customers too, so they do come out.
So I do want to make sure that we ask you the question that we've asked all of our interviewees. And first and foremost, thank you for your time. And I don't want to take too much of it this evening because you're all still busy and probably still on the clock, so to speak. But Penny, you alluded to this. Marilyn, I'd like your take as well, and just a synopsis of why does it matter that we support local farms, and why do you do what you do in one sentence, if you could?
All you have to do is drive by the farm in the spring and look at those blossoms, and then take a walk in the fall, and you know why. It's all it takes. Just love it.
Mhm.
And our
Yeah.
customers tell me that. They love it. They come walk. It's just beautiful. And we make sure it may not be neat and tidy. The grass might not even be mowed sometimes, but it's beautiful and it's what we need in this part of the world.
Yeah, there's definitely beauty in farming. How about you, Penny?
I often wondered why my father farmed for the number of years that he lived. And I wondered why my brother stayed working the farm alongside my dad. And there's several reasons why I do what I do. Number one, that cycle of the season is so energizing to see what you plant and then to harvest it and then to see the customers thank you for doing that. And lettuce, and it looks like flowers in the field. And the fact that the land that we farm has been farmed by previous generations. And every morning when I step on the farm, when I'm here by myself before anybody else gets here, it's like that deep breath of fresh air. And you just go, wow, I love this. I just love it. And yes, there's points where you go, why the hell do I do this? Am I like crazy or something? Um, but then that's like a fleeting moment. And I truly love growing food. And I wouldn't do any other agriculture except growing vegetables because it's my favorite foods. And I love it every day. And I love walking through the field and grazing on green beans at 6 o'clock in the morning and testing the peas and tasting the lettuce and having my brother walk through the door and say, try the corn. Do you think it's ready yet? And those are being just with the family. And it's great.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. Well, thank you both for joining us this evening. I know that it's even though it's November, it's a pretty busy time. We've learned so much from both of you, and we also want to thank all of our farmers out there and the people who have been listening and taking time to learn about these invaluable businesses. This wraps up episode 4 of Harvesting Maine. Please stay tuned. We have episode 5 coming up in a few weeks. So get out there, buy local, ask questions, and we're here to listen and we're here to help you connect with farmers across Maine and learning the value of how you can support them. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank you, Anne. Bye, Marilyn.
Bye, Patty. Good to see you all.
Good night, ladies.